call to order. We'll do roll call. We'll start and whip around.
Hi, I'm Deb Fishwick.
Great, Peter.
Amy Dickey,
Dave Martin.
Lauren Fearman.
Kelly Tarbell,
Julie McKenzie.
And we also have,
Judy Cullen.
oh yeah, and the Paris. Okay. Approval of agenda. Are there any additions or deletions? Perfect. August 9th, regular meeting minutes.
Do we have to make a motion to approve the agenda, Kelly?
Oh, we probably do. Do we have a motion?
I, Judy Pullinan, making a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you.
All right, Dave Martin, second.
Is there any other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Meeting minutes from August 9th, 2023. I have a motion to approve those.
I'll move that, Dave Martin.
Thank you.
I'll second it, Judy.
Thanks, Judy. All right, any discussion about the meeting minutes? None. All right. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from August 9th?
Aye.
And I'm going to abstain because I wasn't there. And that is Kelly. Everybody else is, are there any opposed? Sorry. All right, so we're good. Sorry, thing. Got it. Yeah, paper copy, then I don't have to flip tabs all the time. Thank you. Communication, board member comments? All right, hearing none. Public comments? None. All right, administrators report, superintendent.
all right. The first day of school was 2 weeks ago. It's hard to believe. Wednesday, August 30th. I've been to both Ludlow Elementary and Mount Holly a couple of times in these last couple of weeks. Lots of happy faces, lots of things off to a very smooth start, which is wonderful to see. Our new principal is settling in well, and I'm hearing very positive reports from staff and from families. So we're feeling like we're in a good place. Some information about what's been happening over the last month. I've been part of a panel sharing information about PCBs, even though that's not an immediate concern within Ludlow or Mount Holly. It is part of what the TRSU is involved with. I'm doing that at regional meetings for the Vermont School Board Association. There have been 2 so far, one last week and one last night, with board members from Addison and East and West Kensington areas, along with another superintendent and all of the usual state agency reps, talking about the process so far in our individual districts and SUs. I'll be speaking again tomorrow night to board members from Bennington, Central Vermont, Franklin, Grand Isle, Kingdom North, Wyndham, and Windsor, which are these regional board meetings are posted on the Vermont School Board Association and are open to board members who want to attend them. So some people attend from these different communities, not everybody. Also, the Peter Conlon, who is the House representative on the Education Committee, who's been very involved in the PCBs issue, appears there, and people from the Justice Department to talk about those things. Let's see. I will also be speaking as part of a group of superintendents talking to all the other superintendents about the PCB process at the Vermont Superintendent Association meeting that is happening all day tomorrow. Cheryl and I met with representatives from the Disaster Recovery Unit from the U.S. Department of Education discussing flood recovery assistance and potential grants. In particular, we talked about a grant specifically earmarked for student and staff at schools and mental health needs directly connected with the disaster. This is not a FEMA or an insurance-connected program. It's a completely separate thing. Called SERVE, which I don't remember what that stands for, I think it is a school emergency response to violence because it initially was to deal with disasters in the form of man-made disasters like school shootings, but it has morphed over the years to be providing assistance in the event of natural disasters as well. Cheryl and I and a couple of employees also attended a webinar around the application, and we'll be looking to apply. So we may be able to get some additional assistance to help anybody attending school or our staff members who have any residual mental health issues connected with the flood. Just has to be directly connected to the natural disaster. Very interesting. Our rescheduled board goal meeting, also known as the retreat, will be happening on Wednesday, September 27th, from 8 to 3:30 at the Cornerstone Room at Jackson Board. Debbie Singnizer from the VSBA will be our facilitator, just as we had planned for July. She has an attorney colleague who's going to speak with all of us during the morning about Robert's Rules of Order and meeting procedures. Those specific agendas will be reshared with everybody shortly. I know not everybody can attend. We do have a quorum from each board that is indicated that they can attend. So hopefully the 6 or 7 people who never responded to me are able to put it on their calendar and be there. This is an in-person only. There is no Zoom option for this. Blissfully, all of our teacher positions are currently filled. It's fine, I'll just say. We have a bus driver for Mount Holly and are working on one for Ludlow. I'm sorry, I know you'll talk about it when we get to it. But we could still use 2 bus drivers in the Green Mountain District, which is why I bring it up here if people are looking. We will be advertising for a curriculum director for next year. As everybody knows, Ann Gardner transitioned back from that position to a classroom position as an English teacher. Emma Bastola, who's on Zoom, and Julie Pera in their roles as the math coordinator and literacy coordinator have picked up some additional pieces for this year. And Anne is continuing with a couple of pieces. But when those 2 ESSER-funded roles come to an end next year, we want to fill the position of curriculum director. And we want to do that early and make sure we have all of the best people applying. So we hope to have the job posted in the next couple of weeks, to be doing interviews in October, and hopefully have a selection in place for the TRSU board to approve sometime in November. That job will begin on July 1st. We ask for a board representative from the TRSU board, and hopefully we will be able to put all of that in place very rapidly. We're similarly going to be looking to reconfigure the technology department. Lauren Baker is potentially retiring at the end of this year, and we'll be posting for a new director on a similar timeline to the curriculum. And I'll speak more about this at the October meetings. That's what I have for you. There's some other things we're talking about that are in new business and old business. Does anybody have questions? All right.
Sorry. Oh, go ahead. Did you say, can you review again the staffing in the curriculum office? So you said, so it went from a team of 3 to 2.
So we had, up until we had ESSER funding, we had 1. Okay. So up until last year, our curriculum director is a single person position.
Okay.
With the ESSER funds, we were able to put in place these additional roles to supplement some of that work, which has been wonderful. Julie and Emma are very talented, and I'm hoping that they will apply for these positions that we will be advertising for, although other people will apply for them as well.
So when you say them, you mean a curriculum director plus the 2 grant funded?
The 2 grant funded positions cease to exist on June 30th of this year.
Got it. Understood. Okay.
So it's stuck at the director.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Understood. Okay. Do you have some kind of a plan? Because my impression sitting in these meetings and listening to these presentations is how overwhelming the work is that actually all three of them do. So it would be really a loss for the district for them to go away, those two positions to go
It
away.
will be, and if the DRSU wanted to entertain adding an additional $200,000 to $300,000 to the central office staff, I'd sure be happy to discuss it. However, it seems, given that I will be proposing when we get to our budget time, that we need an additional person in a supervisory position within special education. Not something I intended to speak about now, but
Sure.
that we have the total number of students with special needs that we have within this SU would normally be seen in an SU with double the number or in a school district around outside of Vermont and double that number. And most places that have 2,000 students in them have a special education supervisor, an assistant special education supervisor, and then point people in various buildings. We have one person, and the number of new special educators we've had keeps, new special education students we have keeps rising. We are, I'll be arguing when we're talking about the budget, simply unable to effectively meet all of our students' needs without that. That is an additional central office position, and with salaries plus benefits, it will be upwards of $100,000. To add that, we really should be adding two. We should be adding one to be a supervisor at K6 and one to be a supervisor at 712. My anticipation is I will propose that and that the boards will tell me that maybe I can have one. But I would be happy to talk about doing that and continuing with a curriculum director, a full-time math coordinator, and a full-time literacy coordinator. While that would be wonderful, I could not in good conscience recommend that as being something that we really, given a district of this size, need to have. It's been great to have it. We don't want to lose the ability that those individuals have, but to continue in a district this size with 3 full-time curriculum level people is way more than we could really fiscally justify.
And those three are TRSU employees. They're not LMH. Okay,
Because they serve the entire SU.
got it. Understood. Okay, thank you for that.
No, you're welcome. These are, and I'm glad for you to ask the question.
Yeah.
They're all things that we have to talk about. We can't talk about them till we talk about them.
Sure.
But when we start talking about it at budget time, it always feels, part of why I'm bringing up curriculum and tech director now is that it always feels as though we should have talked about it already.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah.
So I'm glad for the opportunity to talk a little bit about that.
Any other questions for Lauren? All right, take it away.
All right, thank you, Kelly. So it has been a great start to the school year. Really very positive, and our enrollments are at 108, which is really a nice, healthy number. Our after-school program started this past Monday, a couple days ago, and that's really well attended. About 40 a day to start. Usually that kind of goes up as we proceed through September and October. Soccer finishes up, things like that. Best news of the day, Mr. Dennis is the actual bus driver. So it's not just a bus driver. The kids love Mr. Dennis. And we were so lucky to get a package deal with Dale coming back too. So it's oh, I said Dale. Thinking of the catfish person. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, it's coming back. Potentially. Fingers crossed.
We're working.
We're working on it.
That's the hope. And then the other big position that we've been working to fill is the long-term substitute for Beth Chase as she's on leave. And Ellen Canzaro was approved today for provision. So she's fully certified in Pennsylvania, but to have her certification, that hurdle to be cleared, that was cleared today.
They sent the letter of eligibility so that we can.
Yeah, we can put her on the right pay scale. So yeah, thank you to Lauren for making that happen. And then part of the reason for such a positive start, I think, is because we usually do our artisan residency in the spring, which is also a nice time because it's kind of culminating. But this is a big kickoff. It's a circus week. So Troy Wonderly, he came in, if you remember, he did a day last spring to kind of get everybody acclimated to the circus arts and excited about it. And now it's the whole week, and all the classes are learning how to juggle, ride unicycles, and do all kinds of amazing things. And it's just such a rapid progression of learning. It's really impressive. It's really talented. And there'll be a open culminating performance on Friday, so after tomorrow at 1:30. We're welcome to attend, so please come. There's plenty of room. We've got an in-service coming up next Friday, the 22nd, and I'm really excited about it. Deb and I are co-facilitating a strand on social and emotional learning, how to make schools a really welcoming place. And we've got a bunch of people signed up to work with us. Really nice group from all 5 schools. And all of the guidance and clinical staff are collaborating with us to help facilitate. It's a really talented team. So pictures are coming up. Monday, the 2nd of October, we opened up our fall assessment window for math and reading, and that goes through the first week in October. That is always a lot of fun. And I mean that sincerely. Like, the kids are at the point now where they're like, I want to show what I know. They're not like, oh, another test. So we're really working to cultivate that. It's not like that 100%. There's some people that are like, oh, another test. But it's getting more and more like, okay, let's do this. And then we had our first, we actually changed the name of the Parent Teacher Student Association to Parent Teacher Group. And we did that because PTA wants a really large B to have those letters in our name. So we're an independent. We have our own 501c3 for nonprofit status. So we decided to name ourselves after Ludlow's teaching. And we're hoping to try to, to get more cross-school coordination among the parents and community volunteers. We're the first couple of events that we're doing is we're participating in the Tap to Table Festival, which is down in Cuttingsville. And kids since last spring and continuing down through the fall are making all kinds of original arts and crafts. And they're going to be the vendors of their own table. So there's entrepreneurial skills and math. It's really exciting. And then the following week is Cider Days, which we've been doing for a long time. We do our Super Kids. Rachel's hard at work with kids creating all the bowls and making soups. We haven't started making soups. And it is wonderful to have Deb on our team. We've worked together with Deb as part of the River and leading Shrewsbury Mountain School. So we've shared staff before.
Skiing before.
We've done a lot, and we're really philosophically and pedagogically really compatible. It's wonderful. And I have also heard great things about the first couple.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Happy to be here, Deb. Well, are there any questions? I should do the whole thing.
Yeah.
No questions. All right, go ahead.
All right. So as Craig said, off to a very positive start to the school year. Opening staff in service was on a Friday, and then they had off on Monday, which was a surprise to me, but I figured out how to get through all that I needed to get through when we focused on revisiting Ludlow Elementary School staff charter. We started to build our student charter. First, we have come together as a staff and have really worked on building our school charter for students to be safe, responsible, and kind. And we kind of define that, and in the classrooms, as I've been going through in the morning, during morning meeting times, teachers are working with students about, okay, what does safe look like? What does it sound like? How do we know? So it's really fun to see that energy spreading throughout our building. Our enrollment right now is about 88 students. It changes, seems to change day to day every once in a while, but you know, we're holding, I think, at 88. I could be wrong. We had a wonderful opportunity that PTG supported an ice cream meet and greet. It was the hottest day last week. So ice cream melted very fast and we had lots of sticky fingers, but it was a wonderful opportunity to meet many of the family and community members that came out to be there. It was funny, kids wanted to come to the ice cream social as opposed to going to soccer practice. And in walking around and talking with families, I found out that one of our students named his fish Dr. Fishwick. So how does it matter, you know, to have a fish named after me? He told me it was a bottom feeder, so I'm not quite sure. As the PGG is also going to host a Harvest Fest on the 30th of October at Black River, what formerly was the Black River High School on the lawn, so they're looking for vendors and people to come out.
It's October, September.
September, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead. Thank you for the clarification. We too have started our maps testing and kids seem to be excited and engaged in doing that work. Our open house and book fair is October 3rd and our picture day is the 20th. We tentatively have a bus driver. I'm still waiting, fingers crossed, that goes into play. As Greg said, the after school program started this week and we have a lot of students participating. And grateful to have that in place because for the past several years before I came, we didn't have an after school program and have not been able to fill that. So it's wonderful that we can provide that for the students. Sixth grade coming up is a key wading trip.
That's a joint trip.
It's a joint trip between Mount Holly and Ludlow, and that's happening October 10th through the 13th. I'm still working with Jake Parker to set up a time for parent meeting to occur.
Ours is tomorrow night at 7.
Just a couple quick things, buildings and grounds. Tentatively, we have a bus driver. Since the last time I saw you, we had a 400 amp service redone to the building. So we were down in August a couple of days without power or internet. And on our very first day of school, we had a sensor that malfunctioned. And at about 10:30 in the morning, the fire alarm went off and everybody exited the building. We had no idea why. But we got the drill in for the month and we fixed the sensor, so we're good to go. And last week with the windstorm, we had a large tree come down on the top of the hill to the left of, if you're going uphill, to the left of where you would head up to the outdoor classroom area. And Chet and Mike worked probably 6 to 8 hours to take it down, and there's still some debris up there. So grateful that they were there and able to take that. And the last thing I have is I have just brought some copies of the Ludlow Lions Pride teacher newsletter and the family newsletter that I'm sending out, and people wanted to get a sense of what that looked like.
For Deb?
Dr. I just want to thank you and welcome you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do and welcome. I wanted to ask you, are you in the morning, because I know that our previous principal was doing it, are you guys saying the Pledge of Allegiance?
So we do. However, this is my 36th year in education, and I realize that in some situations it's controversial, and some families believe and some families don't. So when we start the morning and I do morning announcements, I always start with a short phrase, and I say, saying the pledge is a personal choice. If you make the choice not to say the pledge, we ask that you sit or stand quietly and respectfully. So I do that. Thank you for reminding me of that. I will add that to my family letter for next week.
I gotta say a couple things. I really appreciate seeing you in the morning and drop off.
Oh, it's just,
And my son is impressed and happy as well with the new principal.
thank you.
Great. I'm gonna put my plug in again. And beginning of the year, and I'm gonna send, I don't know if I have your email easily, but I'll send it to Craig and maybe you can forward it. There's a gentleman who amazes me all the time, and I will put in a plug for him. His name is Leon, and he's an illusionist, and he does a kids program that is, I just can't even describe how amazing it is. And I really want him to come to my school, so I'm working on that. But I would love and think maybe I could work out a little deal with him. If we could do 2 or 3 schools in a really close amount of time.
Same day.
Well, I think it would be like 2 or 3 days in a row. He has this sort of message about kindness and magic is everywhere, and we have to look for it, and we have to find it, and we have to believe in it, and we have to believe in ourselves, and we can make magic happen. And he has a couple of different programs, and I have his marketing material here, and I've talked to him at length. And his program, depending on which one you pick, can be about $3,500 up to almost like 9,000 and change. So you can pick and choose some programming, but that's why I'm hoping if we did like 2 or 3 schools at a time, maybe we could work out a little something. He's amazing. And he's not only amazing for what he can do for kids, but I think to watch him and to know he's not a teacher and to see how he works with kids and how he ebbs and flows and is able to support them without doing the thing for them and then back off and let the kid do their thing. It's like shocking. And he has kid programs, he has adult programs. He's been in Vegas, he's been on Penn and Teller, he's been on all the big shows. He's phenomenal. So I'll send you the stuff if we can make it happen. And I'm really working hard to get it at Riverside. But
Do you know, that sounds wonderful. Are you thinking like spring?
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think
Give some time to find.
he's on a tour right now, and he spends his summers in the Adirondacks near me, and so that's how I run into him. But I think we could work something out in the spring for a couple of days in a row, if it's possible.
How long is the show?
To just go in the evening, it's like 60 minutes. I think in the marketing material that I'll send you, I have to forward it to my phone and then so I don't want to do it right now.
No.
I think he will spend a day and do like a magic camp kind of day for smaller groups. He will also do like an inspirational show for like an afternoon. I think it was an hour and a half show, and you can pick a 1-person show where he just comes, or you can pick a 2-person show where he and Chelsea come, who's his assistant, and they bring a certain number of bigger illusions, but then they do some smaller stuff with kids, and they pull kids on stage. He does a magic camp in the summer for like a week for kids, and there are kids who you can tell have some struggles in school and really don't probably have a lot of success in school, and they get up there and they get on stage. He works with kids who are 4 and 16 all in the same week and pulls it off and makes it happen, and he has this incredible show. And so
Sounds amazing.
yeah, he is fabulous. All right, I'm waiting for like Paul to do something. He's not here. Okay. Curriculum. Oh, I'm like 7. There's stuff.
Julie's going
happening on
to
the
present for us.
Okay, so we tried something a little different for this year. Emma and I have co-created this report. We're gonna alternate who presents, but we're gonna talk about both math and literacy. And what we did for the TRSU board, those of you who were there, we wrote a written report for them, and it's posted on the TRSU website. And we'll link into the agenda, so there will not be a presentation there because it seems redundant. There's information shared, and we're available to answer questions. This presentation that I'm sharing with you tonight will share with both the LMH and the Green Mountain Board. So the presentation will happen there. Okay. So these are the 3 things we typically talk about. Usually it's math or literacy. This time it's math and literacy. We're going to interleave both in each of these topics. What are our students learning? How are they doing? and what are we doing to continue to improve. So what are our students learning? First, on the math side, I chose to speak to well, my written report talks about manipulatives and models in general, but for the presentation, I'm focusing on number lines. There's two major ways that we like to see number lines used by students in their learning. One is as a tool to problem solve, like figure things out. That's the for thinking piece of it. And then the other is as a demonstration or a way of explaining your strategy and showing your answer. Same tool, same model, different purpose. And what you see looks different depending on which one of those is going on. How you analyze and interpret that information is also different. And we'll come back to that here in a second when we get into part 2. Some examples of, just so you have an idea of what I'm talking about. So on the left side, you see number line models for thinking. In these two cases, when you analyze the student's work on the number line, they're using the number line to figure out how to solve the problem and what the answer is, not just show their answer. So, for example, in this example, you see a typical number line numbered from 15 to 24, but underneath it, you can see that they're tracking and keeping track of their answer as a secondary labeling system. So that's why it would be in the for thinking aspect. Here you see like a middle school example of, the question would have been something like, where does negative 2/3 fit on the number line? They're just showing you where to put it. There's not going to be a problem solving evident in the use of the number line. Switching to the literacy side, Emma is on Zoom, so if there are questions and if she has something to offer, she can certainly chime in. You've heard a little bit about this in Scarborough's reading book and previous presentation, but she's highlighting here the phonological awareness piece of literacy and reading. And this is the idea of when we speak and when we hear language, it connects to the printed versions. So the connections back and forth between those things is the focus area that she's highlighting. What are some things that we do in terms of phonological awareness to build it? When students are listening to and creating variations on books and songs and doing rhyming and alliteration, that's an example. I won't read all of them to you, but you can see some of the others here doing activities that involve blending sounds versus breaking apart sounds, and then in general creating opportunities to write text and listen to the sounds of the words in that written text. Okay, now switching to how are our students doing. So on the math side, because I chose number lines, it's not as easy to pick quantitative bar graphs and pie charts. So my how are we doing is more anecdotal and qualitative. There's a publication from the Department of Ed that is talking about assisting students with struggling math. But most of the time when you're using strategies like that, you're helping all students, not just struggling students. One of the recommendations in there that's got evidence behind it to be very effective is in fact use number lines in multiple ways to build understanding. What the recommendation says about how to use number lines in a little more detail. On the left, you see 3 things that it highlights that you should use them for. Understanding how to represent different types of numbers, understanding how to compare numbers, and then building understanding through reasoning, like the problem solving that I talked about. It also talks about some obstacles that you can encounter when using them. And I've highlighted what the report says about that. In terms of what does this have to do with how our students are learning, anecdotally, what I observe is all of these things are happening. Where I think we have an opportunity is to make them happen in a connected way. So, and the concrete representations, mostly the number lines you see if you walk around a classroom are printed on paper and labeled by a student or drawn by a student. But there are actual physical concrete number lines that could be used in certain circumstances and could help bridge some gaps. So it's, I think we're doing well using number lines. I see them all the time. I think we have an opportunity to look at, and when I get into the third part of the presentation, some of our ongoing assessment project training, it talks about number line as sort of a force across the curriculum and across the grades. So we'll revisit that too. Okay, so here we have some more typical quantitative data on the literacy side. You see 2 pie charts. The left pie chart is from fall of last year. The right pie chart is from spring of last year. So you're seeing benchmark. This is reading fluency data. It's an element of the math progress testing that both Deb and Craig spoke to earlier, specifically highlighting phonological awareness. So, and Emma, chime in here if I get this off, but the way to read this chart is in the fall, these are the levels of phonological awareness, level 0 to level 5, and they're defined over here on the right. And you can see where students fell, both in terms of the table and the pie chart. The color scheme is blue would be exceeding expectations for that period of time. Green would be meeting, yellow would be approaching, and you don't see any red. So in the fall, that's what the picture looked like. And where our students were in each of the levels. In the spring, you can see that there's been a shift in a couple of different ways. In one way, the percentages are shifting down the levels, which is good news, right? Because it's building phonological awareness. And then the expectations change in the spring because there's been instruction. So the percentages in terms of the color scheme, below expectations, approaching expectations, meeting and exceeding. Since the bar, those percentages, those measures change as well. But overall, we are building that phonological awareness as we
Hey, Julie, is this just Ludlow-Mount Holly, or is this the whole Green Mountain?
Emma, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is TRSU district.
That's correct. TRSU district.
Yeah, and in general, Emma and I, if it's building specific, that's really the principal's role to bring to the table. When we're talking data, we're usually presenting it at TRSU level.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so the last category, what are we doing to continue to improve teaching and learning in both math and literacy? So on the math side, I'm highlighting 2 opportunities here. Last year and again this year, we're a participant in the Agency of Education State Systemic Improvement Plan, which has a particular focus on improving math performance in grades 3, 4, and 5. Once again, it's coming out of their special education office. It's focused on students with disabilities, but everything that they're bringing to the table and that we're talking about and working on is a benefit to all students. And then the second thing is the ongoing assessment project for assessment. We've run 4 cohorts now and are running 3 more this year. Feedback continues to be positive. We're moving into some of the upper grades this coming year, fractions, multiplicative and proportional. And some of the materials in there that start way in the early grades, K through 2, with additive reasoning, there's like a progression for number 1 in those grades. So here you can see what I was talking about. This beaded number string, that's a number line. And it's color coded to emphasize the groupings of 10. You can even do it in terms of color coding with groupings of 5 at the kindergarten level on a shorter, stick instead of the whole string, because you're counting at lower levels, lower numbers, or lower magnitudes. You want to be careful, and the written report talks to this, about using manipulatives like that where it encourages one-to-one counting. In kindergarten, they're learning to count. That's completely appropriate. Once you start moving into upper grades, you may still use it, but you're not going to want to see your students moving a beat at a time. You're going to want to see them moving them in groups. But this tool, unlike written number lines, can help you recognize when a student might be in their head going by ones, but you're now watching them go by ones. And so you can see that and address it. So it's still got a place in terms of figuring out where students are and moving them along. I don't see that we use a lot of these. In fact, I didn't from high school, didn't even know the thing existed until I took additive reasoning. And that was like my favorite thing. I carried it around with me all the time. But the other thing that's important is not living there, not staying there, moving toward the visual representation. You can see here, here's a picture of a beaded number line. It's written and it's drawn, and you can't actually move it. So it gets you away from the counting. And then you move on to the actual number line that we're used to. So who knew how much was involved in number lines, but how helpful it can be in building reasoning knowledge.
That's not new to me and Deb.
Well, no,
It's not new to us every day.
Okay, let's see. So on the literacy side, Emma's highlighting 2 things. There's a Stern Center program that's being offered, I believe it's 7 sessions throughout the year. And it's voluntary sign up by teachers. It's called Bringing Structured Literacy Receive a Life, some of the things you've heard about in her presentations, it's diving deeper for the educators. And then Mind Play as a comprehensive reading course, that's asynchronous online program that's been available for a while. Some teachers have already taken advantage of it. We're continuing to offer some more so that more can. Okay, so that's we're trying to maximize our time and give you some information about both. I'm happy to take more questions. I also linked in the written report here up here. In case you'd like to.
The link to the slideshow to something.
It didn't make it this time because we were getting the process together, but it will be linked. The presentation will be linked in our agenda here, and the written report will be linked in here. Any questions?
If this has not been linked in a way where board members can see it, we can just share it.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
We're trying to make sure for the future that anything that is going out as the packet gets uploaded in effect as a document with all of those things available on the TRSU website agenda, so that everybody can have access to it, not just by going to the Google account.
What if you go to TRSU website and there is a link there for curriculum instruction and assessment. When you click there, you end up in a folder that has both the written and the presentation right now, but I can also send it out. Yes, sure.
So I over the summer, I was helping a new fifth grader with their through her math, the summer workbook she was supposed to finish. And didn't get all the way through. But it seemed to me that there were numerous different ways, different models, sometimes number lines or pie charts, and other ways of grouping. And it seemed like for her there were too many different ways. That she could focus on one, and after a while, got that one down. And then turn the page, and it's a different one. And by the time she comes back to the first one, she had to start over again. And I'm wondering if that's math is a problem for her. So I'm wondering if that's an issue you've seen before or you've thought about.
Yes, I mean, I think two things I would say there is one is, it's a different experience, obviously, for the students to be working in a workbook at home without an educator supporting them. And then secondly, understanding not just like that number line continuum, but if you're learning how to develop multiplicative reasoning, do you want to be using a set array with individual objects, or do you want to be using an area model? The answer is yes, depends on where you are in the learning progression. Early on, you want to be using those arrays of individual items, but if you use them too long, then you're going to be counting, and instead of moving toward multiplicative reasoning. So the research says there needs to be multiple models, but students can't be left to their own to make sense of those multiple models. The instruction has to guide them through, depending on where they are and what they're ready for, which models to use. It's difficult to do that in a workbook. The design of the workbook is probably recognizing the research, but there's no support to help the student make connections. They're trying to figure that out for themselves.
She was somewhat overwhelmed. I think her parents didn't help her with it, and I'm always seeing her with only a couple of days before school started. So
that's a struggle with the summer workbooks. It's like you want to give students an opportunity to do some math. Yet at the same time, there's nobody there to keep track of where are they really and which math should they be doing. And you also don't want them to feel like it's busy work that they have to do and cram a couple of days before school starts, because then it becomes counterproductive. So there's pros and cons to that. I think what I would say in that particular case is, hopefully now that they're back and the teachers working with them. In fifth grade, the multiplicative reasoning came earlier, so it might take a little bit of effort to recognize that student might be struggling and not make its way through all of those models and help them do that. But I suspect the intervention system and the core structure is uncovering it already. So I wouldn't worry too much about the workbook experience explicitly.
Yeah, no, I think she felt bad that she didn't finish.
Yeah.
But there was no way she was going to.
Well, I think they're bringing her back. There's like a board system for bringing it back. I hope
we were really explicit with all of the kids that do what you can.
Yeah.
It's not like we're not gonna celebrate that you only did this much, you know?
I'm sure we're gonna focus on what they did.
Yeah.
Even though the student might be concerned about what they did.
Yeah, and it's not, oh, she, with some more support here. Keep going, it's marginal.
Are there other questions for Julie or Emma?
Thank you.
Facilities. How you doing?
Good. So, couple of things, PFAS, like we talked about, that we're right back at ground zero. Pretty much starting over. Otter Creek received permitting, reviews from the Department of Water. Those are being addressed, revised, and will be submitted this week, back to the Department of Water, because we changed the building and everything had to start back over. They still haven't heard anything on the financing for the loan processing. And Belden, our general contractor, has been given preliminary plans to start developing an associated change order, which just changes everything from what we started with. We're going to have the project housed at the town garage. Now it's going to be housed on the property here. So we're stuck with the state again. I mean, there's a little bit of an update, but not much. We're dealing with the state and the state water, which makes it even worse. After some conversations with some engineers, they're dealing with the same thing in Killington. We're in the same boat. Everybody is just hung up in bureaucracy. Some better news on our bond process. I spoke with the EI. There's been a lot going on, even though we're not seeing much going on as far as us here. Design teams have been selected and site visits have been conducted on site at both schools. Bi-weekly design meetings are occurring with their team on Zoom or on Teams. An initial major equipment is being sized and selected for the HVAC systems. So they're actually putting plans together, so the next time we have questions, they can give you exact pieces that they're looking at. Surveys are being scheduled by a civil team at Mount Holly. Roofs have been scheduled to have insulation tested for moisture and reuse. Initial permitting review has been conducted by DeWolf. Currently looking into potential issues here at Mount Holly with wastewater permit and pervious surfaces due to the basketball court and the size of the addition. So they're worried a little bit about the runoff that's come off of the basketball court over the years, where that water has gone and what it's done to the underground of where we want to put the addition. So they're looking into that. They didn't say there was problems, they just said they're looking into it. Potential issues with drinking water due to the current project, that's our PFAS, so they're trying to incorporate that. So if we do move forward and the bond passes, that we don't run into any problems with the addition with PFAS, because those lines will be going right by where that addition is. No Act 250 concerns, they got a hold of the boards, and no Act 250 problems. Scheduled site visits for structural analysis at each school. They should see some initial high-level drawings by mid-September. And the goal in the next few weeks is to finalize floor plans and elevations here at Mount Holly, including code review with the fire marshal. So they've been extremely busy with the bond process for LMA. So things are moving in a good direction for the next meeting that we have EI here. That's it. Any questions?
Can you remind us on the schedule? When do you expect them to bring things back to the board?
They are on schedule. I don't know if I can pull that up, the schedule that the facilities committee had.
Was that November?
I believe it's November. We're coming back to meet again in November. I don't think I can pull that up right off. That's all right.
You know, Judy was looking at something.
Yeah. Wanted to.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, I just didn't know. All right. moving on. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
I don't have a meeting on the calendar, so I don't. Judy, do you? Do you have a facilities committee meeting on your calendar?
I thought we were going to get notified, but let me look. Hold on.
I've got it right here.
Oh, you did?
Okay.
In October, task force meeting number 8, update the board on drawing progress and meetings with the local affiliates. So mid-October.
So we don't have a date?
I don't think so.
But
Okay,
Maybe a board
got
meeting,
it.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh, and so it's not a facility.
It's not-
Board or task force.
okay.
I believe we had decided that now that the board had approved that we would move forward, be no more task force meetings.
Got it.
That would be addressed at the board.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Wait, I thought we said it would go to the board, but that the task force would start meeting like in November-ish to talk about publicizing it.
Might be right, Julie, but this was about.
Right.
updates.
I'm just saying that not that there aren't any more meetings, it's
Right.
that we're not any more meetings about the building itself. It's more like
Yeah,
trying to get the vote out.
Maybe just ask him so that at our next board meeting, get a clear plan, you know, whether he
Sure.
thinks we should have a committee meeting or whether it's sufficient to go, come straight to the board.
Yep.
But, okay,
Financial update?
So Cheryl's not here tonight, not able to join us on Zoom. She's not free. She did say that the financials for July and August are in the folder. If people are interested, there's not a whole lot to report. The first pay for teachers just went out. She would have shared with the Ludlow-Mount board that the joint bid that happened at the TRSU for oil. The two bids were $335 from Irving and $375 from BART, and the TRSU accepted the bid from Irving for $3.35. So it would appear that our first attempt at having both boards have the bid happen at the same time was successful. And we'll hear more from Cheryl next month. Actually, before we move on, I just want to make sure I've said in the recording, you should be able to see, but for Amber's benefit, that Maria wasn't here at the very beginning, but Maria Gambino has been here as part of the board since pretty much right after we got started. So,
Old business superintendent search.
I think the reason this was on the agenda was essentially to make sure that a report about what the TRSU board decided gets shared with this board as well.
So I can speak to that a little bit. If I'm off, please correct me. So the TRSU board met with two groups, VSBA and New England something.
NESDEC, the New England School Development, it's Development Commission Committee.
Both of them are basically
Consortium.
hunters for education. Price-wise, they were very comparable. We felt like the New England,
NESDEC.
thank you, was a little bit more comprehensive. They also offered a warranty. It seemed like they had a bigger net to throw to catch our candidates. And so we voted to use them for the principal search and to get it started right away, and hope to have somebody hired by January-ish. What else am I thinking? That's about it. All right. And there will be a committee and all of those kinds of things that we've had in the past for principals and superintendents, and that will just start to get underway with the process. Oh, my favorite. Policies, yay. F1, F2. F1 is student conduct and discipline, which is a first read. F2 is search and seizure of students by school personnel, also a first read. And then
That's it for the policies.
That's it, okay.
And so essentially just asking if people have comments, that they share them either now or at some point. The next policy committee meeting is actually next week, on Monday. Great.
It's soon, I just
I
know
think
it
it's
keeps
the
popping
18th.
up on my phone.
And so if there's anything people want addressed, then let us know. Otherwise, you'll see it again you'll see them again in October as second reads for possible adoption.
And those are both ones that we generally do boilerplate anyways,
Yep.
correct? And then B is community outreach for possible building bonds.
Like I asked it to be on the agenda, only that it seemed like the mistake at Green Mountain was to wait until November, December before doing much of anything. And so I'm not, I mean, should we be sending something to the chit chat and to the journal? Just saying, I mean, obviously we don't have a proposal yet, but saying that we've looked at the conditions of the two buildings and identified these numbers of areas that need to be brought to a higher level. And so who should do what, I guess is the question.
Dave, I thought that we talked about that the committee would meet and try to come up with some kind of a plan. I think it would be better to do it by committee than by the board, because some of us have been more involved than others.
I mean, I think it's important to just mention at these meetings, and then maybe once we hit that October-ish meeting, then we'd have a little bit more solid of a plan to go forward. I mean, it's not bad to bring it up. I just don't know that we have the right information to be. I don't want to be so general that people are like, what are you doing, or make assumptions on their own either.
No, I mean, I think, if we wanted to say something now in Ludlow, we'd say, hey, the roof is not going to last much longer, you know. That's the big one in Ludlow. And then here to make sure that parents and others are aware of the crowding issues. And in both places that the boilers are at the end of their useful lives. And so, I don't know if it's useful just to go out and say that these are our current problems and that we're, we need to address them, and that we invite comments, and say that at future meetings that we'll be doing the details, something like that.
May I make a suggestion?
Mhm.
We both have our back to school nights coming up. It will be a platform and a forum where we'll bring the community together collectively as a whole. And I'm wondering if there might be an opportunity for board members or committee members who have been through this whole process to share some information initially, or have a table or a poster available for people to take a look at, so they have an idea of what's coming down the pipe.
The way our format works is we gather in the gym, and the kids lead in all, the sixth graders lead an all-school meeting. And so news and announcements is one of the items of that. So it would be really conducive to that type of an idea. Like along the lines, I think, of what you're saying, Dave, so that people, some people are reading the minutes from August and they're getting the idea of what's up the run, but not that many. And I've definitely got questions about what's necessary, what can we afford, feedback. And I don't know how representative it is, but I agree. I think the more proactive we could be, the more we'll start to get the feedback we need to make sure we're on the right track.
My concern is that we identify the problem without being ready to identify the solution. And I wonder if so I think if by that point we've taken, I don't know if we will have taken a vote on what we actually intend to do about it, but as a parent, if I see a board of all these pictures and things are failing, or it's the nurses stage, the nurses, that's essentially what it is, but the nurse's office on stage, box on stage. My question is, what are you gonna do about it? And if we're not ready to give some detail about what the solution is, I wonder how helpful it is to just highlight the problem.
Sorry. There's an opportunity in November with parent-teacher conferences, for whatever you call them in November, student-led conferences. I don't know what you do in the fall, but
Yeah, that's what.
that would be a similar venue, and it would be after our mid-October, a little bit more information meeting.
And if we had the drawings by November, that's my concern, is like if we could have the drawings so we could say this is what's happening, but we have some pictures of what is going to happen. I think that would be a little bit more organized. I have to agree with Julie, not just talk about the problem, but then show, and this is what we want to do about it. So I think November might be a good goal. I'd love to do it for the parent teacher, but if it's not organized, I don't know that that would be as helpful as a thoughtful, organized approach.
To your concern about it not being, Fremont not happening until later, Fremont vote happened in November. So they were not sending things out until a relatively short time before that, about 2 months before. We're still, since you're proposing a vote in March, we still have a considerable amount.
Large printer here.
To print like the touch. We have one in the district at Fremont.
I don't remember whether it is there or at, yeah, I think it is. I think it is within,
It's not here.
but I know we do have. one.
Yeah, that does both.
TRSU board report. Talked a lot about the principal search. I have to go back and find minutes. Superintendent's, what did I say? Principal, sorry. Somebody we're searching for. I have to go back and look for minutes. Do you have something?
That's the primary discussion.
Sorry that I didn't know until 1 minute before this that I was leading the show. Policy committee, obviously they were working on conduct and search and seizure. I know they're meeting soon. And we read a handful of policies at TRSU as well.
The TRSU still had to approve as second reads once the Ludlow had already approved. So where we are now is everybody back in this first read place.
And the facilities committee, we've already kind of talked about. We're going to meet mid-October. We have a plan going forward a little bit maybe. And we did not approve any policies at this meeting. I think we're at the make Paul proud moment. Oh, no, we got more. Public comments. Next meeting, October 11th in Ludlow and on Zoom. Board self-evaluation. We were given and read the materials ahead of time. Mostly good, except for me, because I didn't know I was leaving the show, but I did read them, just didn't put them in that right memory bank. Board members are respectful to the public and administration, as well as each other. They were great. Board members handled conflict. I think we did. Board members focus on the role and responsibility of the board. We did not micromanage, and board members acted as a team once a decision was made.
Before you go to adjournment, just a reminder for the next meeting date is actually not October 11th. The next meeting date will be September 27th
Oh, right.
at the retreat. That is a meeting of all three boards at the same time.
Right, thank you.
That's my word of house.
Oh,
What time is that?
like
Which one?
3 or something.
At the retreat,
It's already there.
It's from 8 to 3:30.
Can you come for a partial day?
Of course,
Okay,
come for what you can. I mean, absolutely, if people can only come for the morning,
yeah,
come for the morning. If you can only come for the afternoon, come for the afternoon.
Okay.
It is a benefit to be part of it. Most of the morning will be about roles, responsibilities, and Robert's Rules of Order. Most of the afternoon will be goal setting for the boards.
You remind people of the location.
Jackson 4, Cornerstone.
Dermot, who wants to make that motion?
I'll
I
make
want to
the
stay
motion.
here, thank you. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then we are adjourned.
Yahoo.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.